Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and this is going to be my team builder and battle for week 1 of the MPL, season number 7. This is very exciting. Always fun to kick off a new league, always a lot of nerves going into the first week. It's a brand new team. I'm not quite sure how it's going to function, but we're going to make the best of it. We're going up against the Calgary Infernapes in week 1. The Infernapes are coached by none other than Aaron2420. Aaron is a good friend of the channel. He's been very kind to record a lot of our battles in recent months. He recorded most of my UBL Season 2 season, and he's been recording all of my BBL Season 2 season as well. He and I also have competed in a couple different leagues together, including GBAD League, MPL Season 6, BBL Season 2. So we've become fairly familiar with one another. I didn't play him in BBL this past season, but we have been fortunate to get the better of him in both GBAD League and in MPL Season 6. Season 6 of MPL, he was a replacement coach, so I don't take too much stock in that. He was subbing in, I think, for Melantosh, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, let me not waste any more time, and let's just quickly look over his team, and then I will talk about the team that I've prepared. So he has on his squad Mega Mawile, Zygarde, Manaphy, Superior, Xurkitree, Lycanroc Dusk, Ninetales Alola, Delphox, Volibee, and Reuniclus. So a very, very scary squad because he has a couple of really great setup mons combined with Veil, which is always really spooky. Mawile is definitely a top tier threat. I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to deal with that. You could use like a fire type to switch into its dual stabs, but my fire type is Infernape, so that doesn't really count. I don't have any other really great resists for it. I guess Empoleon, but Empoleon's pressured by other mons in this game. So gonna have to figure out how to prevent that thing from getting out of control. Zygarde is one of my least favorite mons to face off with in a draft format. It's one of my least favorite mons in general because everyone else seems to know how to use it much better than I do. I struggled a lot to use it in UBL Season 7. It's hard to keep track of all the damn UBL seasons that I've participated in. But I can't seem to beat anybody with it, but everybody seems to be able to beat me with it. It all started with Melantosh in GBAD League, and he just totally punished me with that thing. So let's hope that doesn't end up repeating here. Manaphy, obviously really scary with Tail Glow sets. Manaphy is his Z move user, so you can run Z Rain Dance if he chooses. Not that that makes a lot of sense versus my team, but it is, just something to note about Manaphy in general. Superior with Leaf Storm boosts is scary. Tail Glow Xurkitree is scary. Calm Mind Xurkitree is scary. SD Lycanroc, you guys get the point. Even Calm Mind, did I really call this Reuniclus? I think I did call it Reuniclus. It's Duocean. Calm Mind Duocean is still pretty scary, to be honest, because base 125 attack is nothing to laugh at. So I'll have to put an edit explaining that I called that thing the wrong name, but I digress. There's lots of setup, and he has Ninetales for Veil to support that as well. But I think we have a squad that's going to be able to hopefully deal with all of his potential setup. And then if we can set ourselves up for an end game where Tapu Koko or Infernape can clean up, that'd be pretty great. So let's talk about how we arrive at that end game. So we have a Piloswine with a pretty standard looking moveset: Rocks, EQ, Icicle Crash, Ice Shard. But we are rocking Max Attack, Max Speed. I did the same thing in BBL versus Max Rapture when he had a Mega Mawile on his team and I had a Piloswine. Just reason being, he shouldn't expect me to run Max Speed on Piloswine, so he should be more likely to click one of his stab moves versus Piloswine rather than Sucker Punch. So if he doesn't click Sucker Punch versus me, which shouldn't be able to kill me anyway, it might even still be able to survive a +2 if I'm at full. But anyway, if he does click one of those moves, we should be able to catch him off guard with a pretty powerful Earthquake, which is pretty nice. This mon's also really important in this matchup for Zygarde because I do have the Ice Stab and the Ice Shard to try and hit that thing as hard as possible. It's also Electric Immunity. Not that this thing takes a Energy Ball particularly well from Xurkitree, but at least we can find out if he has that thing or not. It forces him to run a coverage move, and if he has to run another coverage move, he already has to run HP Ice for Gliscor. Makes it a little bit harder for him to run Tail Glow or whatever. So yeah, that's Piloswine. Pretty standard. Then we have a Spinef and Empoleon, Defog, Roar Scald, Ice Beam. Defog is there obviously to prevent Aurora Veil from going up. Roar is there to get something like a Ninetales out that's setting up Nasty Plot, to get out a Manaphy that's setting up Tail Glow. Even like a HP Electric from a Manaphy is not going to do that much to me, so I can very easily roar it out. If I can get a Brox, being able to roar stuff around is definitely pretty nice. So hopefully we can make that work. Put just a tiny bit of speed on here in case he was trying to creep this with Mawile. So yeah, nothing really too crazy to say here. Lefties I think is the best item for this mon. I was tempted to run like Iapapa Berry or something like that, but Leftovers felt a little better. Just because, like, again, versus like Ninetales and Manaphy, they're not going to be doing a ton of damage to me. So just to mitigate that little bit of chip, I think Leftovers makes more sense in the long run. Sugar Berry or something like that would have been nice for Zygarde, but I don't think I could afford that. I have other Zygarde responses anyway, including the Ice Shard on Piloswine that I was just explaining. Then we have an Assault Vest Muck, pretty normal looking set. Knockoff P-Jab, Pursuit, Fire Punch. Fire Punch is just so we're not total fodder for Mawile if we come into a situation where we have to stay in versus Mawile. Poison Jab is for like Superior, for Ninetales, things like that. Knockoff's just obviously important coverage, and then Pursuit is there for anything that I want to chip down. Trapping Duosion would be really nice with Alolan Muck. But yeah, this thing it could take a +3 Surf for Manaphy relatively easily and go for knockoff or P-Jab. I actually had Clear Smog on this thing at one point, but I think versus Manaphy, as long as it's not Z-Rain Dance, which like I was joking around with my front office. Aaron's got to be juiced if he's going to be running Z-Rain Dance versus me. Shoutouts to the front office, of course, to the whole team there. Jacob, as always, fan base, Ultra Player, Bronson, Omega Jolteon, Skyrander, and the Confusion. But yeah, like, so versus that, like, that was kind of the only thing that maybe would be nice for, but I don't anticipate him running that. And then versus like Z Tail Glow, or sorry, just regular Tail Glow, as long as he's not Wakan Berry, like Tapu Koko Revenge kills it anyway, so it's not worth trying to remove its boost. It's just better to get damage off. And then versus something like Xurkitree, I die anyway. Versus Ninetales, I'd rather click Poison Jab than Clear Smog. So it just didn't end up making a lot of sense. So yeah, that's why we went with this Muck set. Next off, we do have a physically defensive Gliscor with Curse. So Curse is not here as a win con per se. It's going to be hard for Gliscor to win if Ninetales or Manaphy are still around. It's mainly just as insurance for Zygarde, whether it's DD or Coil. Curse should allow Gliscor to beat that pretty easily. And then Earthquake plus Ice Fang coverage lets us beat pretty much everything on the team that doesn't have HP Ice. So like Xurkitree is the main thing I'm worried about with Gliscor. Besides his obvious Pokemon with super effective stab moves, because we should not be able to survive a Hidden Power Ice from a Xurkitree. But if for some reason that's not around, I guess this could turn into a win con. But yeah, it's just mostly there as defense. It's also going to be a pretty solid switch in for Mawile, because it can't really do. We do a lot of damage to me. Don't get me wrong, but we can hit it with Earthquake, and we should be able to live Sucker pretty easily. So as long as we can get in range of like close combat from Infernape or Thunderbolt from Tapu Koko, those are my two mons that resist Sucker Punch. Should put me in a pretty good position. So next, a pretty normal looking Tapu Koko set. 4 attacks with Sugar Berry. Sugar Berry with this defense investment allows me to live an Adamant 1000 Arrows at +1 after Rocks. So I have to be pretty careful to not lose any HP on my Koko if I want to use it as a potential check for Zygarde. And then we have a Naive Nature because I still wanted to run some attack EVs, and I didn't want to run a negative attack Nature because I am running Brave Bird. Brave Bird is a very powerful move for hitting Superior. That's the main thought with this. The U-turn still does a pretty decent chunk, but Brave Bird is my best bet. He has a couple of okay Koko responses, like Xurkitree, I guess. Like an AV Xurkitree would be able to take hits from this relatively well, unless I'm like CM Roost. But I don't know that he'll bring that. Like, I'm expecting more likely some sort of defensive Serp set to try and deal with Koko, or maybe like a Spadef Zygarde. Like Spadef Zygarde makes sense, especially if he's going to be packing Coil. So maybe he'll have one of those things. But yeah, like Dazzling Gleam obviously super effective coverage for Zygarde, and then Brave Bird is super effective coverage for Superior. So other than the Xurkitree, he doesn't have an amazing way of dealing with this Mon. We have enough speed on this thing for whatever his fastest Mon is. I think it's just Superior. I could have run like a special attack boosted nature, but again, I wanted the extra EVs for the defense, so that way I could live that 1,000 arrows. Then last but not least, I do have a Fist Plate, Swords Dance, Infernape with double fighting moves and then U-turn. So U-turn in early game should be really nice just to net momentum versus Aaron. And then because his only real switch into this thing is Duosion. So if I can U-turn on the Duosion switch in, or I can U-turn out after going for CC and then bring in my Muck, that puts me in a really good position because I can then Pursuit Trap that thing potentially. And then once the Duosion is weakened, I set up a Swords Dance and just win. He doesn't have another fighting resist on his team besides Duosion. And then for things that outspeed Infernape, like Ninetales or Lycanroc, like they take a ton from Mach Punch. I guess Delphox, I'm not taking into account Delphox as a fighting resist, but the reason for that is because it takes 75% from CC at +2. So that doesn't count at all. Yeah, so if I can find a way to set up an SD with Infernape, this thing can definitely just straight up win. So it's a lot of defensive Mons, but I have a couple of win cons, mainly Nape. Coco just in late game with 4 attacks is pretty good. This Gliscor, like I said, isn't really a win con. It's more of a precaution for setup Zygarde. But who knows? There could be a situation where this would win. I did kind of the same thing back in UBL versus Leo when he had Zygarde 10%. I brought a Bulk Up Breloom, which is not meant to win, but it was meant to stop Zygarde from getting out of control. But then it did end up winning, so who knows? Anything can happen. So yeah, let's flash on over to the battle. So here's the battle. As has become normal for me, it's like a week and a half after I played this battle. Aaron and I played this battle right before PAX. And after that, just been very busy with other things. And I was waiting to get my recording done. Big shout out to Leo for doing my recording. He's going to be doing most of my recording this season. But I digress. Aaron has decided to bring on his team his Lycanroc, his Ninetales, his Xurkitree, Superior, Mega Mawile, and Zygarde. So biggest thing, excuse me, I burped a little. Biggest thing on the bench is, of course, the Manaphy. But I can respect that he didn't elect to bring it at all, because it is a very big liability versus my electric types, and also like Sceptile and things like that. There's just like no way for him to bring like a sort of like a Z-Rain Dance set, and because like even if he sets up a Tail Glow, because I can almost always revenge with Tapu Koko, didn't really make sense to bring. Because of that, I do expect like his Zygarde will be a bit bulkier because it's his best way of dealing with the Infernape. Otherwise, you can see he gets totally mollywopped by SD Infernape. Other things to note, so he brought all 3 of his electric resistances. Because Zygarde, I think, will be more geared towards Infernape, there's a decent chance that Superior is the one that's built for dealing with Coco. And Xurkitree, like with an AV as well, is still a fairly decent bring. Ninetales, I definitely can see it being like a Veil support mon this week, because he has the Zygarde, he has Lycanroc, Mawile, all things that could be annoying behind Veil. Yeah, so in terms of leads, I actually like Piloswine quite a bit. It does pretty well versus anything except Superior. So that's what I'm going to lead with. If I get up my rocks quickly, then that's great. But otherwise, it punishes like a first turn Ninetales. It could do a lot of super effective damage to Mawile, Lycanroc, and Xurkitree. Lycanroc as well is a pretty likely lead on his end, so I like that. So yeah, let's just hop right on into it. Wish good luck, have fun to Aaron hit play, and see if we can get on into this battle. It's always a nerve-wracking experience having the first game of a season, but Aaron in that nice bow t-shirt on that girl is going to set me at ease quite a bit. So he is going to lead with the Lycanroc, so not a bad situation for me. If this thing has like a boosting item, like an attack boosting item, I would definitely take a lot from like a Stone Edge or something. But I don't really want to switch anything else into it, and Piloswine's big enough or bulky enough to take one. He's going to go for a taunt, and I'm just going to go straight up for the EQ. So I decided to go straight up for EQ. There's a couple things that he could have gone for. He could have gone straight for the attacking move, and so in that case, I could go for the EQ into Ice Shard, potentially take him out. If he goes for Rocks, I could go for EQ into Ice Shard, take him out. He actually ended up going for Taunt, which like makes sense. He's trying to prevent my Rocks. It was a little bit of a risk on his end because I could have been Oblivious, and that would have negated his Taunt, but I think that it makes a little bit more sense for him to go for Taunt, like expecting me to be Thick Fat. Like, Thick Fat just makes it so it's so hard for this Ninetales to hit me. So anyway, we're able to take that thing out with pretty much no consequence, just getting taunted. And I'm going to go into my Empoleon because I potentially want to prevent a Aurora Veil from going out. But he shows the Encore, and this is actually just a tiny bit tricky. Because if I go for Defog now, he can just Encore me into Defog and prevent me from doing whatever it is. Then he can go into like Zygarde or something, and I have no way to punish that. So it's a little bit scary. And so as he goes for Veil now, I go for the Scald. It doesn't do very much damage at all. And now he can Encore me into Scald, which would be not very good. So I have to play around this Ninetales pretty carefully. The Encore tech on this is really nice versus my team. I'm really impressed with that prep. But we can just go on into the Piloswine now, and then we're going to double back into the Empoleon and try and get off the Defog. And this is even going to work out for us because we end up scouting another move. He goes for Toxic. So he's got the Toxic, Encore, and Aurora Veil. So presumably his last move is an Ice move. It's just a question of whether it's Blizzard or Freeze Dry. But yeah, now we can go for the Defog, as he is going to go straight on into his Superior here. And so I do get off this Defog. It scares me a little bit, actually, that he's going into Serp here, because he does get the evasiveness boost, as you can just see, due to his contrary ability. I decide to stay in here and take one Leaf Storm, because I want to throw off an Ice Beam, because if he wants to go for a sub or something like that, I wanted to prevent that from happening. It's not going to end up being the case. It actually turns out that this is an AV Superior, so my Ice Beam doesn't do very much damage. He unfortunately got a crit on me, which does quite a chunk of damage. But I can no longer live another Leaf Storm, so I decided to go into my Assault Vest Muck. It might have been the better play just to do that the first time around and not let Empoleon take any damage. But again, it's just a little unfortunate that I got crit. So even though he's at +4, he's not really going to be able to do a lot of damage to my Muck. Even with this super effective HP Ground, it does like maybe 55-60%. I throw off a Fire Punch here just in case he wanted to switch out into like the Mawile on my predicted Poison Jab. We get a little bit of justice because we're able to get the burn and do a little bit of chip damage to him. But he's going to bust out the Giga Drain, which is going to allow him to get to a range of HP where he will not die to the follow-up burn damage, while being able to take us out at the same time. So nice set on his end. Leaf Storm, Giga Drain, Hidden Power Ground. Definitely pretty nice. But because I know this thing is not Scarfed, I can just easily go into my Coco and I can kill it with a U-turn or gain momentum on whatever else wants to come in. What's really nice is that I should be able to get free momentum with both Tapu Koko and Infernape for the rest of this match, because I presume that the Lycanroc had the Stealth Rocks on it. But now that that thing has been eliminated, there's no chance he's going to get up Rocks, most likely, unless he's got it on Mawile, which just doesn't really seem that likely. So I go into my Piloswine, because it's kind of the same position that I was in on turn 1, right? Like with Superior out of the way, there's really nothing that just straight up threatens Piloswine besides like Mawile with Iron Head, but I actually outspeed probably most variants of Mawile that he could have. He throws off a Freeze Dry versus my Piloswine, which doesn't do very much damage at all. Maybe he just wanted to scout. Maybe he was predicting my Empoleon to come in, but I do just take that as an opportunity to set up my Rocks now. But because he's shown the Encore, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to click that here, and so I'm going to take it as a chance to go into my Empoleon. But he does just go for the Toxic instead. So one thing that's a little bit, I guess, annoying about me having set up Rocks there is that if he goes for Veil, I cannot get rid of his Veil without also getting rid of my Rocks. So it's not an amazing situation for me. But what I do choose to do is I go for the roar. Just because it'd be nice to shuffle his team around and get a little bit of damage on something. But unfortunately what ends up coming in here is the Zygarde. So that's, this is probably the worst thing for Empoleon to see on the opposing side of the field. I'm going to make a decision here to sack my Empoleon because, like I said, I'm not really going to get a chance to defog versus anything without also getting rid of my rocks. And then I don't want to let this thing get up a sub for free. So I'm just going to stay in here expecting to die to this 1,000 arrows. And you're going to see I actually survive on 2 HP, which is totally bonkers. So I looked it up afterwards. He got a literal mid-roll with his 1,000 arrows, assuming that he has 0 attack investment. That's the only way that it can do that little. So that tells me a lot about the sort of set that he is, of course. So stinks for him that he got a low roll. But again, I think it's a little bit of justice for the crit that he got earlier. So I don't know if it's really true or not, but I digress. So now I'm going to go into the Piloswine because I can throw off an Icicle Crash here. Even with the Aurora Veil up, the Icicle Crash into Ice Shard is going to do a chunk of damage. And we've already seen leftovers, which further makes me think that it's sub. But basically, there's no way he's really going to be able to set up versus me, even with the Veil up, without something like Yachi Berry. So anyway, brings in the Ninetales. He's going to go for the Toxic now on my Piloswine. As I just go for an EQ, I just want to try and get as much damage on possible on this Ninetales to prevent it from setting up any more Veils, because it's at this point we know that it's Light Clay. And if I can eliminate it now, it puts me in a really good spot. So Earthquake is a 2-hit KO. And I'm going to get whittled just a little bit by the Toxic. And then he's got to Encore me into Earthquake before he dies. And so this, Encoring me, it makes sense because it potentially gives him a setup opportunity with his Zygarde. But I do have my Gliscor in the back, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm thinking a little bit to 3 or 4 turns ago, and I'm like, geez, I wish I had maybe kept my Empoleon just in case. Because Gliscor was pretty free, I guess. I guess now Gliscor is even more free because the Superior is gone and the Ninetales is gone. Those are probably the 2 scariest things for Gliscor, and then the last scary thing for it is a Hidden Power Ice on Xurkitree. But either way, I have my 100% HP Gliscor now. I'm going to be able to come in on this Zygarde as he goes for a Coil. So this was definitely this variant of Zygarde that I was fearing the most, and it's the exact reason that I decided to put Curse onto my Gliscor, because we could boost alongside it, and there's pretty much no way that he's going to be able to beat me without a crit. And so he's going to throw off the sub here. He's thinking probably, well, first he doesn't know if I have Ice Fang or not. And then second, if I'm not packing Ice Fang, he shouldn't really, I shouldn't really have a good way to do damage to him. And so he should be, he's thinking that he can get up a sub for free versus me, because EQs at this point do not do a whole lot of damage to him. But luckily I am a setup set, so I can boost my attack, and I have the Ice Fang, so he shouldn't be any real threat to me. He's going to go for a Coil here, and I'm going to go for a second Curse. We're both at +2/+2 at this point, and this is going to become a little bit of a boosting war. It's funny because oftentimes you see these boosting wars with Calm Mind more than you see them with physically boosting moves. But it just so happens that he has Coil and I have Curse, so we can go for this sort of thing. It's a little bit of a tough judgment call on when to start attacking and stop boosting. I'm going to go for +3 here, as he also goes for +3. And basically, I'm trying to get to the point where if he boosts and I stop, he does not end up doing too much additional damage to me. So, for example, if he's at, if I'm at +2 and he goes to +3, that does quite a bit of damage to me on the next turn. But if he's at +5 and I'm at +4, the difference, because the relative difference in boosts is less, I don't take quite as much damage. So it is still worth it for me to continue to boost alongside him, as long as like he's as long as he's still boosting. So for there, I just went to +4. He's at +4. He's going to go for a coil at +5, and I believe this is the turn where I go for Ice Fang to try and break his sub. Like, at this point, he still doesn't know because I haven't clicked it yet, right? So he probably is pretty excited. And I'm going to go for the Ice Fang, and this is going to break the sub. I think this does like 35 or 40% on average. So he's definitely going to be 2-hit KO'd by the Ice Fang here. And so he can't even boost to, like, even if he boosts to +6, like, I 2-hit KO him and he has no way to one-shot me. He can't even two-shot me if he gets up to +6, so that's pretty good. Like, you can see, so he's at +5 versus my +4, and it doesn't even do 25% to me. So I'm going to throw off the Ice Fang, and yeah, it's definitely a 2-hit KO. Easy peasy. So, like, to me, Zygarde is basically neutralized. Pretty happy with how this exchange went. Like, Gliscor can't win the game on its own because, like I said, as long as he has Hidden Power Ice on Circuitry, he can come in and revenge me. But this is the biggest threat on the team, for sure, remaining. So, like, with that, like, so I missed the Ice Fang, which sucks. First Ice Fang, so 5% chance to miss. It happens. But because I'm getting a little bit low on HP, I decide that I'm going to Roost this next turn. Because I want to keep my Gliscor at as much HP as possible, because in addition to being my best Zygarde check, it is also my best Mawile check. So it's not worth it for me to let Gliscor get weakened here so much. The only thing that's a little bit of a bummer is I think he is now out of range of 2 Ice Fangs. But we can still 2-hit KO pretty easily. He's going to throw up another 1,000 arrows. You guys can see how this like becomes a little bit of a long exchange because I'm basically just roosting while he's throwing off 1,000 arrows, just in an effort to keep myself as healthy as possible. But yeah, so now he, even after 2 turns of leftovers, he'll still easily be in range of Ice Fang. So on this first turn, I'm going to go for another Roost, and then I'll follow up with an Ice Fang. Yeah, like, so if the Zygarde does go down, he has just the Mawile, the Xurkitree, and I guess that's it left, because I've killed the Ninetales, the Lycanroc, the Serperior. Yeah, so it'll be 2 Mons on his side versus my 4, my 5, I can't remember. Yeah, my 4. So anyway, we go for the Roost. He throws off 1,000 arrows. And it's going to do the same amount of damage, you know, very little. It does 40 points of HP. And I go for an Ice Fang and I miss again. So that's 2 Ice Fang misses, which really sucks a lot. And so I can't remember if this next turn, if I take another chance to Roost or if I just throw off the Ice Fang right away. He's going to go for the 1,000 arrows here. Oh yeah, and this is the turn that he crits. I was trying to remember when that happened. So it is true that we got fairly lucky with the Empoleon earlier on the match to live with the min roll, but you know I was put in that position mostly because of the crit on the Empoleon earlier. But then versus the Zygarde, we miss 2 Ice Fangs and get crit. Like this freaking Pokemon, like Pokemon in general is just such a bullshit game sometimes. But hey, you know we choose to play it. You got to live with it. And so I'm looking really scared. Like I'm really scared versus this thing now. I go into my Tapu Koko, and he throws off the E-Speed, and I'm like, oh shit, like I might not even live the E-Speed. But I do, luckily, because of the defense investment that I put into Tapu Koko, and we're able to kill with Dazzling Gleam. So, could have been a really horrible situation. I mean, it still sucks, because we should have a full health Gliscor and a full health Koko. But because of that crit, and because of the misses, we have no Gliscor, and we have almost no HP on Tapu Koko. But anyway, Mawile's coming out now. And I don't have any choice, really, but to just throw off the T-Bolt here, try and sack it off. And he must have gone for, I wasn't sure what he did at first. Like, we went for the T-Bolt, and it does a ton of damage. He actually goes for the sub. Like, I don't really know why he went for the sub. I guess he thought I was going to be switching out. But there is no way I was switching out. Like, what do I have to switch into this? I have Piloswine and Infernape in the back. Like, I don't have a switch in. So, like, it'd be one thing if he were going for, like, a Play Rough or something, but Substitute didn't really understand. He should have just gone for the Sucker Punch turn 1, which definitely killed, as you saw. And then I'm going to be able to follow up with a Mach Punch on Infernape, and that's going to leave us in a 2-to-1 situation versus the Circuitry. Basically, like, I shouldn't be able to lose to this Circuitry. Like, if he's Scarf, he's going to have to lock himself into T-Bolt to kill the Infernape, which means the Piloswine wins with EQ. If he's not Scarf, then this close combat should be putting him in range of Ice Shard, unless he's some sort of crazy set on his Circuitry. But anyway, we are going to bring this thing down to effectively 1 HP. He's going to go for the Thunderbolt and take us out. I'm sure that would have taken us out anyway, but it certainly didn't help that our Spadef got dropped from the close combat. He'll get the Beast boost, but yeah, like I said, unless he's some crazy set, there should be a 100% chance that this Ice Shard kills. He does show leftovers. I wonder if this thing was substitute as well, if it had leftovers. But in any case, I'm going to make the only move that I have, which is to go into Piloswine, click Ice Shard, and we'll see if it kills. Here comes the Ice Shard. And yep, that's going to be able to knock it down to 0 HP, and we're going to sneak on out of here with a 1-0 victory. I think at the end of the day that the score would have ended up being the same if the Gliscor hadn't gotten crit. But like it just like gave me so much anxiety in the match. And like Aaron, like, you know, he's a cool guy, and has been such a huge help for me in the last like year or so with recording matches and things like that. He invited me into BBL, but damn it, he just typed into the chat. He goes, okay, like the only way I can win this exchange is if I crit, and then he freaking crits the Gliscor, and I'm like, damn it, Aaron, why'd you have to say that? That's the only reason that it ended up happening. Like, oh, it was just so traumatizing. I was so triggered in the match. But yeah, so like I said, even if I hadn't gotten crit, I think it would have been the same score, but it doesn't like take away the fact that it was so aggravating to get unlucky there in that situation. Even if we got a little bit lucky a few turns ago with the Empoleon. To me, the Empoleon surviving was justice for the hacks on the Empoleon previously. So anyway, it's going to start us out 1-0 for this season, which is always a good way to start. Now we have to go up in week 2 versus Max Rapture. He and I battled recently in BBL, and we had a fun match. Well, I guess fun from my perspective. His video on our match was really funny. He like said he was like it was my Arceus got like 5 kills or something like that, and so he wrote like, you know, he was like part of the wheelchair patrol or something like that. I don't know if we're gonna wheelchair him in this week 2 match. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm hoping for a win, don't get me wrong, but I would settle for not wheelchairing him, because Max is a good guy. So if you're excited for that match, make sure you check it out. And if you liked this video and you want to stay up to date on the MPL, make sure you like this video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all my latest and greatest MPL, Pokemon, and gaming content. So until the next time, I'll see you guys later.